Revit, Twinmotion, and BIM 360. There is contact information on his wanted poster if you would like to connect with him through LinkedIn. Our next gunslinger is Dean Miyao. He's an application expert that hails out of San Francisco, California. He has more than 30 years of experience and has also done consulting, project management, implementation, and training, also for the same projects as Esmail, AutoCAD, Revit, Twinmotion, and BIM 360. And you can also connect with Dean through LinkedIn or by email at the bottom of his wanted poster. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our gunslingers. Okay, Dean, it's all yours.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for that introduction. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. I have a little Revit model up there. So let's get started. Yep, perfect. Awesome. So let's get started right away. So again, this is about the IMAGINiT Utilities. So on the Revit tab here, we have the IMAGINiT tab here. And underneath that, we have all of the utilities that are available to us. So the utilities that I'm going to be covering today are the renumber, the Excel, the view sheet utility, and finally the cleanup utility. So again, the underlying benefit of using these utilities is time saving. So having software that automates updates and changes is obviously much more efficient and accurate than the manual process. So having the software do the work for us is the best way to go. So let's get started. So let me navigate to our first floor here, and I want to start with the renumber utility. So I'm going to start with the door mark update utility. So as the note here says, we're going to update our door marks to match our room numbers. So there's a variety of ways that we can do that. We can select a window of the doors. I can select all the doors on the floor, or I can just select all the doors in this model. For this example, I want to start with just go ahead and selecting the doors by a window. So we can also select the phase, whether it's new or existing construction. And in this case, the first scenario I'm going to do is the doors going into the room. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and select the doors by window. So go next, and I'm just going to window around these doors here. And once I do that, it prompts me with the selections that I see here. So you can see that I have the current mark of room 103, 104, 102, and it's going into these various rooms, 102 and 103, and the proposed room number is being displayed here. So you can kind of see that here. So as I go ahead and do the update, you can see that those room numbers change now because I'm going into that room, this door 102 now becomes in sync with room 102. So let me just quickly undo that real quick. What I can also do is do a room number, in the opposite direction. So let me go ahead and do the room mark. But this time I'm going to select all the rooms, all the doors on the floor, and I'm going to go from out of the room. So I'm going to go ahead and say next and give it a few minutes. And then I get the dialog box here, and it shows me all the the doors that are on this level. And we can see here, door 105, 6, and 7, 5, 6, and 7 here, they're all going from room 111. So you can see it's going to renumber them to 111 A, B, and C. So again, do an update here. And you can see how quickly it goes in here and renumbers those doors for me very quickly. So that's the door renumber. So let me zoom out a little bit and move on to the next little module here, which is the room renumber. So there's a variety of ways that we can update the room numbers, and I'll touch on each one of these. So I'm going to start with the room number by using a selection. And again, I'm going to use all the rooms placed on this current view here. So I'm going to select on that and say next. So it gives me the dialog box. It finds all the rooms on this floor, 101 through 108, or actually, let's scroll down to 111. So what I can do here is I can quickly renumber these. Let's say that I want to recalibrate these and say they're 1001, and I want to increment them by 1. So if I click on the proposed sequence to the rooms, you can see it quickly updates those rooms. And I go ahead and say renumber. And I can see that those numbers those room numbers update very, very quickly. Let me just go ahead and undo that real quick again, and then show you the next little module under the room renumber, which is insert a room number and renumber the affected rooms. So I'm going to click on that little radio button there, say next. I'm going to say it's going to ask me, pick a room that which you want to insert. So I want to take this room 104 and renumber it. I want it to start with 101. So I'm going to put 101 here. Again, select on my proposed sequence of the rooms. And again, you can see very quickly it goes ahead and reassigns room 104 to 101 and then renumbers all the affected rooms. Go ahead and say renumber. You can see 104 now becomes 101. So again, very, very quickly, time saving where I can come in here and very quickly change those room numbers. Go ahead and do that one more time. And we go back to renumber the rooms, and let's go ahead and resequence the room numbers to close a gap. So before I get there, let me go to a different floor here. Let me go to floor 2. You can see here on floor 2, I have rooms 201, and then it skips, and it goes 210, 211, 12, and so forth. So what I can do here is just kind of fix the gap here between 201 and 210. So go ahead back to renumber rooms. I'm going to go ahead and sequence to close the gap. Say next. And I'm going to start with room 201. And then you can see again, it will recalibrate those room numbers. It'll go from 201 to 202. So go ahead and say renumber. And then you can see how quickly it goes from 201, 202, 203. So go ahead and the software automatically goes ahead and renumbers those rooms for me. Okay. And then finally, the other room number sequencing here is that I can select a room numbering from a corresponding level, a different level here. So let me cancel that again and show you what that looks like. So if I go to floor 3, there's a rooming sequence that goes from 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 through 15, and I want to use that sequence on level 2, on floor 2. So what I can do here, go ahead, go back to my renumber room. I'm going to do the renumber from a corresponding level. Hit next. So this is the current level I'm on, level 2. I'm going to go to, I want to synchronize from level 3. The prefix on level 2 is the number 2. The prefix on level 3 is 0. Go ahead and select my proposed renumbering, and you can it gives me kind of the update what those room numbers are going to look like. So 201 becomes 210, 210 becomes 211. So again, renumber, and it's going to say, yep, I got 6 rooms that I want to renumber. That's okay, and there you go. So it goes from 210, 211 to 215. So again, very, very quickly, easy tool for me to go ahead and renumber those rooms for me. So let's move on to the next renumbering utility here, which is renumbering an element. Let me go back to floor 1. And what I want to do is renumber my grid lines here. So again, I'm going to go back to renumber. I'm going to renumber my element. And if I hit this little drop down here, you can see there's a variety of things that I can select to use as elements to renumber. I'm going to use the grids. And again, I can renumber elements in a selected order, or I can select a specific item inside of my selection. I'm just going to go ahead and use a window select. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the window select, say next, put a window around these grids here. Once I select them, hit my escape key, and it gives me the how do you want to resequence these grid numbers. I'm going to say I want it to be A-1, and it's going to increment by 1. And again, select on my proposed sequence, and there goes. It tells me that here's my new sequence A1 through A10. Say renumber. You can see now that those grid lines are automatically numbered very quickly. And again, I can do that for my horizontal grids here as well. So we go back to renumber my elements. And again, I want to select my grids. Again, I want to use my select by window, next, put a window around those grids, hit my escape key. And again, I want these to be 1.1, and then I want to click on my proposed. There's my proposed grid numbers, say OK. So there you go. So I can, again, very quickly resequence, renumber a variety of items inside of my Revit model. Okay, moving along, the next little renumbering feature here is sheet number update. So if I click on my sheet number update, it finds all the sheets that are in my current model here. So I can manually come in here and start renumbering my sheets. So I'm just going to go ahead and manually select a couple of these sheets here. Oops. 0, 0. Couple more, one more here maybe. And say OK. So I probably should have had my sheets open for you. So if I go down to my sheets, you can see now that those sheet numbers got renumbered based on what I did inside of the utility there. So the other piece that I can do is resequence numbers. So for instance, if I happen to have the sheet here that maybe I deleted it, or I didn't really need that enlarged plan. Now my sheet numbers are a little bit out of sync. I go from 3.1, 3.3, now 3.4. So what I can do for the renumbering of those sheets is I can select those sheets in this list here, 3.1 through 3.4, my shift key to select them all, and it will update this sheet numbering here. So I go ahead and say fill gaps. And so now you can see it goes from 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, say okay. And I can see that the sheet numbering has been updated there as well. So very, very quickly, I can update the sheet numbers inside of my Revit model using the renumber utility. Let me just undo a couple of those things there, just kind of bring things back to normal. And so that was the renumbering utility. So again, there's a variety of things underneath there that we can do inside of there. The next tool that I want to get into or utility is the Excel. So Excel, I'm going to go ahead. So oftentimes it's easier for you to manipulate data from an Excel sheet rather than inside of the Revit model. So an example of that, which I'll show you here in a minute. So we're going to export data from Revit. So there's a variety of ways that we can export or templates that we could use. So I have several set up here for doors, levels, rooms, and sheets. So in order to add a template here, I just go ahead and click on my add, and under the categories, there's a number of categories. There's a plethora of a variety of categories you can select from. So for instance, Windows, if I wanted to do an export for my Windows, I can export the instance or the type. And then from this Revit parameters, I can select what it is that I want to add into my Excel export sheet here. Once I've selected the columns that I want, again, just like anything else in Revit, I can move these columns up and down. I can move them down wherever they may be. Once I'm happy with the template that I've created, I go ahead and save that, and it creates a template for me that becomes available to me in this list here now. So what I want to do is do an export for my sheets. So my sheet template, if I go ahead and select on the edit, what I basically want is just the sheet name and number, because I want to modify and manipulate the sheets that I have inside my Revit model. So let me go ahead and cancel that and go ahead and select my sheets and do a complete export of all the sheets in my model. Say export. It says it's found 22 sheets. Say okay. And I'm going to go ahead and overwrite a file that I already have here. I'm going to say go ahead and overwrite, update that file. Export is complete. Once the export is complete, it automatically opens up Excel for you here. Let me just expand some of these columns very quickly, and let me just resort these a little bit. So what I can do in here now that I'm in the Excel environment, it's just obviously I can work in this just like Excel, so I can make my modifications here. And I'm going to renumber these again, kind of similar to what I did when I did the duplicate. And one more. And again, at the bottom, what I want to do is I want to add some additional sheets to my project or my model here. So these are the ones that are existing here, but I want to add a couple more. So since I don't know the element ID, I'm going to just say create this element ID. And I'm going to give it a sheet name, sheet 1. I'm going to give it a sheet number. Let's go to the bottom, Z1.1. Let's create one more. I'll call this sheet 2. Sheet 2, call this sheet number Z1.2. Okay, so now that I'm happy with the edits that I've done to my Excel sheet, I'm going to go ahead and save it. I'm going to get out of this. Let me get out of this as well because I've already completed my export. Now I want to go into the Excel import. So I'm going to import that sheet. So again, I want to use my sheet template. I want to go find that sheet Excel file that I've updated, which is this one. Say open. And say next. On the next, it's going to open up that Excel file. You can see the changes that I've made here. I've changed the sheet numbers for these various sheets here to this. And then at the very bottom, you can see that I want to create a couple other sheets here, Z1.1 and Z1.2. So go ahead and say next, and say next. And it's going to go ahead and process that. It processed 24 items, say close. So again, you can see that it changed the sheet number here. But more importantly, if I go to my view and create a quick sheet schedule, let me just go ahead and click on sheet name and number, say OK. Now you can see in my schedule, it's added sheet 1 and sheet 2, Z1.1, Z1.2. So I can go back to view and I can go ahead and create a sheet. Now that I got that placeholder, Now I can create a new sheet. So I can create a whole list of sheets outside of Revit, name them whatever they may be, and then import them into my model. So now I got a placeholder that I can use to create a sheet. So that is the IMAGINiT Excel utility for import and export. Let's move on to the next one here, which is view sheets. So under the view sheets, a couple things here. So I can go to the view sheet setup. So there's a couple ways that we can do this. I can create views based on levels, phases, and view templates. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that one. So in this dialog box, you can see that it's already showing me the sheets that are the views that I already have here. And if I hover over this column here, it says new construction. It says that those sheets already exist. They exist. So it's not going to create those, obviously. So I can select all. I can go in here and say, well, I don't need to create a site plan for every one of these views here. So I'm going to go ahead and do a shift select, unselect all those. And then once I say OK, and I go back to my sheet, or my view here, so now it's going to create all those corresponding views for all those various views for floor 3, for floor 4, and so on. So it's a very easy way for me to go ahead and create all those placeholders for those views for myself. Let me undo that. The next module under here is the view sheet duplicator. So let me go to a sheet here. Let me go to A6.1. So there's my sheet with my viewport attached to it. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that view. So in the duplicate dialog box, I'm going to create a new custom view. So I'm going to rename this. I'm going to call this 6.1.1. And I'm going to rename it so I know it's a new one, call it new. And I want to take that viewport that's currently in this view, and I want to actually duplicate that. So I'll go ahead and duplicate that view and say duplicate this sheet. So now you can see here I got 6.1.1 exterior elevation new. What I can also do for duplicating a view, let me select a different sheet here. Select this sheet here, this A1.002. Go to my sheet view duplicator, and again, move this over here. So rather than do a custom view, I can use a placeholder. I can use the sheet that I created when I did the Excel import. I can use this sheet as the placeholder to create my new sheet. So I'm going to use that. And then again, I'm going to duplicate that viewport and say duplicate. So now if I go down to the bottom here, I got sheet Z2.2, and it's duplicated that view and called it Z2.2. So very easy for me to duplicate those views in a variety of ways here. So moving along, the next little tool here we have is to duplicate dependent view. So I have a floor view here with two dependent views. I got an east kind of cropped view here, and then I have a west cropped view here. So again, they're dependent views for floor 2. So what I can do here is I can duplicate this floor dependency or clone it to any other views that I want here. So going back to the view, duplicate dependent view copy. So my parent view is going to be this floor plan 2 dependent, and I want to clone that essentially to floor 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Say OK. And once it's done, you can see now that I've clone that. So now I have dependent views for floor 4 east. And again, this is relevant to the floor east and west. And again, if I go to maybe floor 8, you can see that there's dependent views created for floor 8 east and west as well. So very quick way for me to create floor dependencies with the view sheet utility here. Finally, we'll go to cleanup. So cleanup, there's a couple of utilities I show here. The view cleanup. So in the view cleanup, again, I can select all these views. This is a great utility if you're wanting to share your model with your consultants and such, just to kind of clean up the model. I can come into a particular view here and say maybe my sheets. Open up my sheets and say, well, I really just want to get rid of these Z sheets that I've created. Go ahead and say remove. So that it's going to remove those 3 views. So again, if I navigate down to my sheets, you can see that those sheets got removed. And then finally, there's the project cleanup. The project cleanup is probably, if you're familiar with AutoCAD, sort of like a purge. So it can go ahead, again, it's cleaning up the model. So I can select, again, various things in here. say maybe I want to get rid of my schedules, and I want all my schedules, and I want all my sheets to be deleted for whatever reason, and say, clean it up. But before I do that, what I can do is I can save this as a default. So I can go ahead and say save defaults, saved, and say cancel. So now when I come back to view cleanup, at the project cleaner, it will remember that I've selected the schedules and the sheets, and under schedule sheets, it's going to remove all, say clean, say yes. Do you really want to do this? Yeah, go ahead and do it. So now I've got rid of all those sheets, so now I can see I've got rid of all my sheets. Obviously, something you probably don't want to do, but for this example, it's just showing you how quickly I can clean up this model very, very quickly. So that was the first round of utilities in the roundup. So Esmail, I'll hand it off to you.
Awesome, thank you. Just give me 1 second so I can do the switch here and share my screen. Am I sharing the right screen? Probably not. Let me do this right there. Okay.
Perfect.
Awesome.
You're all set.
Cool. So what I'm going to go through, thank you, Dean. Awesome, by the way. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through a few tools also. The first tool or the first set of tools that I'll go through is basically the family placement tools. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get into the family processor, and then I'm going to get into the parameters and talk about the parameter concatenator. Pretty mouthful word. And then I am going to finish off with the adjust pipe. So for the MEP folks there, what I'll be doing is I'll be talking about the adjusting pipes tool today. So let's get into this. And then if I do have time, I might throw in a bonus, and we'll talk about that when we get to it, just to kind of build the suspense. All right, so in this case, what I'm going to do is under the family placement option, if you notice, we've got a configure, and then we have a show panel tools here. And what really these are doing is they're just helping with extracting information from your your central library or centralized library, and then what it's doing is what it does is it helps you display them in the Revit session that you're working in. So in this case, the first option or the first step to get this to work is basically going and clicking on the configure option, and then this pops up on one of the other screens, which is fine. So in this case, what I've done is I configured this to a certain location on my desktop. In your case, you're probably going to be looking for a location in a centralized area where you have your libraries, and it's just a matter of just clicking on the folders and clicking on the folder that you want. Once you have that done, if you click on OK, and then you click on OK there, and now if I go to the family placement option, and then basically click on Show Panel, what it will do is it will show me the different folders at the top here, and then under those folders you'll see the different families here. So basically at this point you can click any of these, and then once they're updated you'll see the different types, and then you click on that and just basically place it, and then you've got that in your library or in your project RBT file. So if I just go undo there, the option that I want to talk about, which was introduced with the Revit Utilities 2021, is the CAD block insert tab. So the way that this tool works is it's very handy when it gets to a point where as a Revit user, you're dealing with some folks in the office that are still using CAD, doing their design or initial designing in CAD, so on and so forth. So what this does is it helps take that AutoCAD layout or that AutoCAD design, and it starts converting it, or placing the different replacing, or I don't want to say replacing, but what it does is it starts reading the blocks in those CAD files, and then just basically putting appropriate families to those. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on the family placement option there, click on CAD block insert, grab this from my other screen. So notice over here, what this CAD block insert tool is doing is it's reading the different blocks that I have in this AutoCAD link that I have right here. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place a 3D family or a Revit family where the desk is. So I'm going to click on the desk option right here. Once I have that, once I've selected the block, that's the one that I want to place a family on top of. What you would probably want to do is just basically go to the category, select the furniture category, and then from there, I'm going to choose the desk family. And then from there, what I'll do is I'll choose the appropriate type. And then at this point, what I can do is I can go click on insert. And then what I've done is I've inserted the family. Now realize here that the family is slightly off. And the reason for that is because the Revit family insertion point and the AutoCAD block insertion point is slightly off. They're not aligned. What you can do in this case is if I just go undo and then click on the family placement, basically click on the CAD block insert option, what I can do is as I'm going through and putting in this the information, I do have the settings right here for block placement settings. And then what this allows you to do is if you have, your Revit families are not aligned with your AutoCAD blocks that you've used in the past, what you can do is you can go in and plug in the different units or different values here for your placement settings. So in this case, I'm going to go -33, which allows me to move it one way or the other. And then I'm going to go in and say inches. If I click apply and insert, it will pop it right in the right location right there. And then you have them in 3D right there. So just a very quick tip, and saves a lot of time if you do have some of your your folks using AutoCAD for designing layouts and so on and so forth. The next tool that I'm going to jump into is going to be the family processor. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to scroll and zoom into this area right here. And for the family processor tool to work, what you need to do is you need to have a family activated, or you're editing a family. So what I'm going to do is just select this, double click on it, and then what it will do is it will open the family editor for me. Once I'm in the family editor, what I can do at this point is go to the IMAGINiT tab, and then within my ribbon, this is the family processor tool. A really neat tool. I would use this for many things, and the way that it works is you can save your lists or your actions after you've went through and created them. But in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the actions. And for this particular demo, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a few shared parameters and then basically use those shared parameters, one on the single family, but also, using it on multiple families, because that's where I see the value of this is adding parameters to, or, maybe materials or whatever it is to multiple families and let the software do the work for you, basically. So in this case, I'm going to click on the add shared parameters option. These are the shared parameters being read from my shared parameter file. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to search up here for furniture, and then notice how I'm minimizing the list to, or filtering the list for just furniture. At this point right here, what I can do is I can select one parameter at a time, or if I hold the shift key down, what I can do is I can select multiple parameters at a time. So, it's not, you can add one parameter or you can add multiple parameters. It really depends on what you're trying to do and how you're trying to achieve that. In this case, what I'm going to do is click on the furniture special notes, and I'm going to click on the add selected parameter. And you can click select all if you want, right? It's, if that's something that you need to do to get you over a hump or a deadline, you have that ability right there. So I'm going to click on that special notes parameter, and I'm going to click on add selected parameters. Now that parameter shows up right here in the bottom column or table. And then what you can do is you can keep this as a type parameter, or what you can do is you can make it an instance parameter. So if I go ahead and just toggle that checkpoint right there, what it does is it makes it an instance parameter once I activate this on my family. And then you have the ability to customize how you want to group it. So if you want to go with other or identity data, so on and so forth, you have the ability to do that, or text. In this case, I'll just keep it under other. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this button right here, OK, to add action to list. And then once I do that, I'm going to process this family in this case. And then once I have that done, if I move this nice dialog box shows up, and it basically tells me that the action that I did is now successful on this family. So if I click on that and then go OK, and then load this into my project this case, I will load it into this project. What it will do is now if I select that family, you'll see that parameter added to the family right there. And the reason why it shows as an instance parameter is that's what we checked. We basically decided that we wanted it to be an instance parameter, so that's where it is. Now that's doing it for one family. Let's do it for multiple families where I see the value for this. So again, being in a family editor, I'm going to click on the IMAGINiT tab and then click on the family processor, where this becomes very, very useful is if you're dealing with a client that needs custom parameters, or they're looking for certain parameters that you need to add to multiple families that you're using on the project. This is where this becomes very valuable, very, very process efficient to what you're trying to do. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to actions again and then click on add shared parameter. I'll do the same thing here, furniture, because I believe the families that I'll bring in, and maybe what I'll do is I'll just bring in a few of these at this point, add them in, and then I want all of them to be type parameters, all of them to come in under the other grouping. And then once I go back to processor, having the multiple families option selected here, I'm going to click on select families. And then once I click on select families, what I need to do is I need to browse to where those families are. So in this case, I'm going to go to my data set, format, content, actually, maybe put it over here, family processors, tables. So that is the folder there. And also keep in mind that you can search within subfolders. I don't have any subfolders in this case, but if you do have a subfolder, you can do that, which works really well for a project related families that you're trying to add parameters to. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select add all of these families to the process. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to click on select families. And then once I have this done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the process families and give it a few seconds, show result. And it's basically telling me that it added all these parameters to basically the files. So once that's done, you can definitely go and open the file and check that out. So let's do that here, or maybe load one of those families into this project. Let me just kind of find those families right there. So I'll just grab that, load it in, and then if I select that, notice how I have those family, or well, it brought one of them in. I'm not sure why, but that the idea is that it brings them in. I can figure that out later. Just all right. Getting into the again under the IMAGINiT tab, the MEP lists of tools, and then basically the adjust pipe tool here. So in this case, I'm in an MEP file, and what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to take this pipe and align it with this pipe right here. So the way to do that, and when you're drawing pipes in Revit, it's very, 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 very easy to have misalignments in pipes, or if you've been moving things around and so on and so forth. And when you do that, what happens is it starts messing around with the way that your drawings look and so on and so forth. So what you can do with this is if I click on the again the IMAGINiT tab, click on the MEP drop down there, and then click on the adjust pipe option. If I click on that, what I would have to do at this point is click on the reference pipe, which is right here. And by clicking on that right here, and then what I'll do is I'll click on the pipe that I want to align. Once I do that, what will happen is this pop-up will pop up here. It gives you a few options of what you want to do. Do you want to rotate the pipe and align it by 3.4 degrees, or do you want to move the pipe by 8.161 centimeters, or move and rotate the pipe? So it gives you these different options here, and depending on what you're trying to do, you select the option that you want, and then this pipe will align with that original pipe that we are trying to align with. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move the pipe, and then if I click on move by the 8.161 centimeters, do that, and then that pipe aligns basically. So it's as simple as that. The beauty of this is it works for pipes, it works for ducts, and it works for conduits too. So keep that in mind when you're doing this. If you're having joining issues with conduits, pipes, or ducts, it's a really neat tool to go through and adjust the piping to, or adjust those elements to fit what you're trying to do. But also what it does is it helps with giving you different options of what you want to do and how do you want to finish that off. The final tool that I'll be going through here, or maybe we do have time for a bonus, so I'm actually going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the IMAGINiT tab, and then within the IMAGINiT tab, I'm going to go to the parameters option right here, and then within the parameters option, we have the parameter concatenator tool there. Doing much better than the first time, Dean, of pronouncing this word, which is awesome. So the concat tool, what it does is it allows you to customize the way that you're reading information, or customize the way that you want to see parameters in Revit. So in the way that this tool works is really neat, really simple. Imagine you've got a campus style project, and you've got a building A, building B, building C. That's kind of what I did. In fact, for this file, this practice file, what I did is I prepared the file with building zones, and I believe we have 4 building zones that I've added. And what I did is I did that as a project parameter. So I went in, created a parameter, and then added different building zones to the sheets here. And then what I'm going to do is for the category, notice how all the categories are there, almost all of them. So what I would do is, what I'm planning on changing the way that the sheet names display. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the sheets category, and then you can make this an instance or a type. So you have the ability of making these changes either an instance change or a type change. So in this case, I'm going to keep it instance. And then for the target parameter, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find that sheet name. So let me just try to find it right there. So sheet name, bring that in. And then what I'm going to do is for the available parameters that I want to add in here is basically I'm going to go in, find sheet name, add that, put a small dash just to kind of a separator or identifier. And then if I scroll up a bit, you should find the building zone. So I created that new parameter called building zone here. And if I add that there, the beauty of this is, you can customize it. You can add more. Maybe you want to put in the revision number if you're doing a CA on a project, or you're trying to extract information around how many sheets, what version, what revisions they are, and so on and so forth. So you can definitely do that. In this case, I'm just going to go with these 2 parameters. And if you click on the preview here, what will happen is it will show you a quick preview of what you currently have. So this is the existing sheet number, the building zone. And then basically what it will do is it will show you how it's going to look. So the new sheet number, so roof plan, building A, so on and so forth. And then as we go down, notice how we've got a building B, so on and so forth. So depending on what you're trying to do, especially if you're doing, projects with clients that require to see a certain naming standards on sheets, this is a really good tool to do it very efficiently. Once I have all this done, what I'll do is I'll click on the OK button and give Revit a few seconds to go through and make the changes. Notice over here how it says completed 83 elements have been updated. If I click on OK, now notice how my sheets naming updated there. Now again, I've done this for sheets just to kind of show you the example, show you how it works. I've seen clients or talked with clients where they've used it for basically rooms, where they within the room name they wanted to see the department and the area of the room. So there's many possibilities out there. What I've showed you is I'm showing you one possibility out of those many possibilities. And as I mentioned, under the concatenator tool there, you'll see many categories that you can use this and customize the way that you want your certain parameters to read in your project. Let's get into maybe a bonus, and then I'll stop in a few seconds here, Lisa. So one of the tools that I really like is the DWG checker. So what this does is, and this is an awesome file to actually do this on, where what it does is it basically goes through and it reads all of the CAD imported files, or basically linked files that are in a project. So in this case, you can tell that there's not a lot of good practice over here, where in this file, and it's done by purpose, just an FYI. So notice over here how when I click on that a DWG check tool under my IMAGINiT tab, what it does is it shows us this dialog box right here, and then what it does is it's showing me the name of the CAD files, it's showing me if they're imported, the view that they're located on, and so on and so forth. So what this does is it basically, where it says imported and it says true, it means that all these DWGs are imported to the Revit file, which we all know, or hopefully everybody knows, that imported CAD files could be dangerous and is not a good practice. So what you can do is, there's a few things that you can do here. One, select a typical file, DWG file, and then click on show. And then what Revit will do is it will, probably go and show you. Now, maybe what I need to do is open a view here. Maybe I'll click on the 3D view, just easier to do that. And then if I go to any of these and click on show, give it a few seconds.
Click your checkbox.
Yes, there we go. Yep, and then it shows you where that, that's really bad practice. But anyways, we're not talking about this. What we're talking about is the tool. So if I go to DWG check right here, what I can do is I can select as many of these as I want, and then just basically, click on, checkbox, or click in the checkbox there. And then what I can do is I can click on delete and clean these CAD imports from my Revit file, basically. So if I click on delete, what happens is it will go through and it deletes those CAD imports. So really neat tool for BIM managers if you're, if you're having some challenges with, Revit crashing or getting corrupted. This could be a good way to look at CAD files. Finally, which I love to talk about, is these utilities. You have the ability to hide tools that you don't want to see. So if you're, strictly architecture, you don't want to see the MEP related tools. What you can do is you can go to a certain tool, you can right click on it and you can say hide utility. What it does is it puts it under the hide column here, but eventually what you can do is you can re-show that utility, and you can share this XML file with multiple users in your office if you want to customize the way that you want to see your utilities. Lisa?
Okay, I'm going to switch back to me.
Oh yeah, service.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, so just going through what IMAGINiT Technologies is really known out there for, a reseller of Autodesk, but that's not what we only do. What we do is we do a lot of services, and what we do is we work with clients on a day-to-day basis to help with, current, business strategy of where they want to get to and how they want to get to that goal or achievement. And we do much more than reselling software. There's a few listed there, but overall, we've got a service team from the industry and with a lot of experience that is able to help you with health checks, with strategic process reviews, implementation services, so on and so forth. So, feel free to reach out to myself, Lisa, or Dean, and we're more than happy to guide you or help you get to your goal.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. And just so you guys are aware, there are some additional resources available around the IMAGINiT Utilities for Revit. So inside of the IMAGINiT Resource Center, you can get to that from either going to imaginit.com or going to resources.imaginit.com. And inside of there, we do have videos of each of the tools that are inside of the Revit Utilities. Not all of them. We're still working on the new features from this latest release, but there are several that are available. You can also visit the Building Solutions blog from inside of there. So there's a lot of great resources inside of the Resource Center for you.